Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning into Facilities in Focus. It's always a joy to be a part of your journey on the internet. But in case you forgot, my name is Mackenna Moralez, and I am the Associate Editor with FacilitiesNet and your host. And as always, I am very excited about this episode because I have an extra special guest with me today. So let me quickly introduce the ever impressive Brian Higgins, founder of Group 77. With over 30 years of combined military and civilian law enforcement experience, Brian previously served as chief police and director of public safety in Bergen County, New Jersey. Throughout his career, he worked closely with federal and state governments on anti-terrorism programs and initiatives and has extensive experience in policy direction, strategic planning, training, research and development, and emerging technologies. He is also an adjunct faculty member at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, where he teaches undergraduate and graduate courses in emergency planning, emergency management, homeland security, and security management. Even with all this on his resume, he founded Group 77, an organization providing a full range of security assessment, planning, training, and consulting services to private corporations, schools, tech companies, professional sports stadiums, and many more since its inception in 2009. But thank you so much for joining me today, Brian. I know that you are very busy. How are you?
I'm good, McKenna, and thank you for having me on.
Good. I feel like we're kind of talking about a bleak topic today, which is lockdowns for our listeners who didn't read the title. But I do feel really strongly about the importance of performing these types of drills. So, to start us off, can you just quickly explain what a lockdown drill actually is and why it's becoming such an essential part of facility safety planning?
So let's go to the history, the backdrop or background of lockdowns. If you go to 1999, prior to
Mm,
that, we didn't really have what we have today is this pretty regular tempo. I don't want to say routine, but this regular tempo of mass shootings and other
right.
violent events in buildings. Right?
Mm,
Um, we didn't have what we see regularly, right? A large amount of people, and it's not just schools. We see it in churches and synagogues, really in workplace violence. Before 1999, they called it going postal because there were a lot of mass shootings in post offices or done by postal workers. And as these things emerged, we realized that the tactics that we had worked on for decades weren't working. You go back even further, the emergence of the 1960s and 70s, where we had people who um, did shootings or were involved in crimes, were better equipped, better armed, and better trained than the police. So then they
mm,
had this emergence of these tactical teams, right? We'll call them SWAT. So the idea was the patrol officer who shows up handles most things when it's really intense. A mass shooter, somebody with better weapons than the officers. Patrol is supposed to just set up a perimeter and wait for these better trained, better equipped police officers. Then Columbine came, and we know that kids and teachers died while police officers outside were waiting for a tactical team.
right.
And immediately it changed things. We realized that we could no longer wait for these special teams to respond when we had cops with guns on the scene.
Mm,
So the emergence of patrol-based response. Cops show up, they go in and try to stop the shooter. In the meantime, that still takes moments. In the very definition of an active shooter, we have a person who is actively pulling a trigger, trying to hurt people.
right.
Every second that passes, somebody could get hurt or die.
Right.
So when time is of the essence, we need to reduce or make it difficult for the shooter to get to victims and to
Mhm.
give the police enough time to get there and get to the person who is committing these crimes. So we went to this patrol base. First cops on the scene, you call, show up, they go in. In the meantime, the people in the buildings don't just sit around and wait to get assaulted or shot. So
Right.
one of the measures they could do is lock down, lock their doors.
Mhm.
We don't see really an active shooter them breaking down doors yet, right? There are those rare examples of getting into a building, but once they're walking through hallways, and I'm sure you've seen the videos, right? These
Right.
shooters walking through schools and churches and workplace, they're literally just looking for as many victims as they can get.
Hmm.
They're not spending time on locked doors. So
Right.
we recommend putting some sort of barrier between you and the shooter. The
Hmm.
other thing we recommend, though, is not just locking a door, but in these lockdowns, preventing the shooter from being able to see inside the room. And the thought process there is if the shooter is looking for victims and a door is locked and they're wondering, should I waste time on this door? Should I put the effort in to get this door open? But I don't see any victims on the other side of the door. I'm going to keep moving to the next door.
Right.
So the idea of a lockdown is to prevent the shooter from getting to you, number one, and to prevent them from seeing you. So if you have a door
Mhm.
that you can lock, make sure it's substantial and make sure that the shooter can't see inside that door.
Right. I feel like I think I grew up doing lockdown drills, or when I was in school, they were called lock and holds. I think now they're called shelter in place in some areas. But how else do these drills differ from other type of emergency exercises like fire or evacuation or even like tornado drills?
So fire is different. You want people out of the building as quickly as possible. So what
Mm,
we teach them is don't wait, don't go grab your stuff, get up and get out. But on your route, make sure you're aware of where you're going, right? So you don't get trapped. If you do evacuate your office space and you're trying to get out of the building and there's a block, there's a fire, collapse, know of other routes in the building. So in fire, really the short answer is we need you out of the building as quickly as possible, right?
mm,
In an active shooter, we're locking you in place for a little while. And we could come back to that later because if you can get out, you should later on. But
right.
so lockdown is lockdown, trying to and with the intent of not being shot or harmed. Fire, get out as quickly as possible. Now tornadoes are different, right? You don't want
Mhm.
to be outside, but you want to be in either a safe building, and if a safe building, at a safe location and safe within that location. So we teach people in those, like earthquakes and tornadoes, lowest part of the building, under something that'll protect you if there is a collapse, like a substantial table or the archway of a door, so that
Right.
you have some protection. So that's the main difference um, between a lockdown for a shooter. In a tornado, you're remaining in place, but you're not necessarily locking down.
Right. So, for example, I work in an open office concept, and like the room that I'm in right now has a giant window in front of it that I can very clearly see out. People can see me talking to you right now. What are we supposed to do in this type of office environment if there is an emergency situation where we do have to lock down? Where do
So
I go?
is there a door where you are to lock?
No, no lock on the door.
So if there's a way to barricade the door, you should barricade it. But this
Okay.
is why we recommend an assessment done of any space. And whoever comes in and assesses, you want them specifically focused on a limited amount of issues, right? Like active shooter with lockdowns, fire drills, only those threats that you would most likely face. They should identify that your door needs to have a substantial lock on it that you can physically lock from inside the door.
Hmm.
If it can't be locked, you have to find a way to barricade that door
Okay.
and make yourself unseen. Because as I said earlier, the shooter is trying to get as many victims as possible, right?
Right.
So if you have a big glass window there and they can see you, it's almost as if there's nothing between you and the shooter.
No, I feel like I kind of screwed in that situation. I guess I could move this table in front of the door and like crawl. You can't really see, but there's this door area.
Okay,
Can crawl right over there.
so
Probably if
that's a
I
good
move the
idea.
table
Yep.
in front of it. The listeners are like, she's gonna plan this her safety route right now.
You know what? It's a good idea. This is what I recommend. wherever you are, you should think about this. And I don't want people walking on eggshells. Most likely the average person will not be involved in an active shooter, but always
Right.
think about avenues of egress, how to get out. If I were talking to the people who occupy that space, I tell them to put a shade there. So
Okay.
you can drop a shade, and if the shooter comes by, you've barricaded the door. They're not sure if anybody's in there. They won't fire through the glass, right? Most likely, because they're looking for shooters, for
Right.
victims.
Right.
And if they can't see you, they may not take the time to enter the door. What I would tell you is stay close enough where if they come in that door, you can do something,
Hmm.
right? Um, if they come in a little bit, most likely what they're first going to do is stick the barrel of the weapon through. If it's a
Okay.
rifle or some sort of long weapon, keep this in mind.
Okay.
The rifle's danger part is the very end. That's it,
All
right?
right.
It's very devastating. But if you could somehow grab that, keep that away from where you are, hang on for dear life, there really is very little danger that firearm can do. Now, it sounds like I'm downplaying, and I'm not. That's a very risky move, very dangerous, and you'd like to avoid that, but it beats just standing there waiting to get shot, right? So
Right.
think about this. If somebody enters this room, I can't lock it. Um, think about what action you'll take. You got a bunch of books behind you. Just throw that book at that person.
Right.
I
I
don't
have
care.
my big like cup too. I could
Yeah,
use that.
yeah. We have a client that came up with water bottles, just handheld metal water bottles.
Yeah.
The neck, if you turn it around and hold where the opening is, it's a really good bottle to hit somebody with or throw at. It's not too
Yeah.
heavy. I've seen stories about a school where they moved from club to a team and they now have a hockey team. So in celebration, the principal put the logo of the hockey team on the one side of the hockey puck, and on the
Hmm.
other they put the image for run, hide, fight.
So, do you agree with that with run, hide, fight?
Well, I think right now there aren't many other options, but there are no
Mhm.
perfect options. Just remember with run, hide, fight, they're not linear. You don't have to run first and hide first and fight. Whatever you're faced with, you do, right?
Right.
I do think, and there's been a lot of discussion, and they're beginning some research on these active shooter situations where you have a lower count of victims.
Hmm.
Victims usually do something rather than
Right.
wait in the corner and get shot, think you have nothing to do. What we want to focus on is occupants of building flipping that switch. Like, oh no, I'm not going today, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we want. Unfortunately, we want that people start thinking that way. Now, if you can get out, get out. If you can lock
Hmm.
down in a safe room, definitely lock down in that safe room and don't get shot. Do not expose yourself. Do not go out. Run, hide, fight doesn't teach you hand-to-hand combat, right? Don't go out looking to confront the shooter, but don't wait to get shot,
Right.
right? Don't make sure you fight back. I'll tell you this. If one person fights back, that's the person whose attention the shooter is on, and other people can either jump in and help or run away.
Right.
So we can save lives if we do keep that mentality of running when you can, hiding if you have to, and last resort, fighting.
Right. This might be a more psychological question, but there's the fight, flight, or freeze reaction. Is it more common for people to freeze in these type of situations? Because I feel like I would freeze.
Well, here's what we see when you look at situations, these active shooter situations after the fact. You have a whole host of different reactions from different people. But what usually happens is most will have I'll call it the freeze in the beginning. And it looks different. Some people, it's almost like your brain is telling you, you hear shots fired, and you're like, that can't be shots, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh,
Denial, just pure denial.
it is, right? And it works most of the time, right? Is that bad? Oh, all right. Let me assume it's not.
Yeah.
Quite often in an active shooter situation, initially you don't get that flood of calls. Eventually you'll get flooded with 911 calls. Everybody's calling. But initially you might get a disturbance call. Police don't always know what they're getting called to initially because there's this almost defense mechanism that the mind has that it's not so bad.
Mhm.
After that goes away, then there's almost this flash, if you will, right? This, oh my God, I don't know what to do. This freezing. At some point, that will level out. And for most people, you'll think of something to do. There are going to be that small percentage of people who just are frozen and never be able to move.
Right. I really think that would be me. I don't think I would be on a hero's journey that day. I would try to live. I have
Okay.
a son. I have things to live for now. But like even as you're talking about it, I like feel so squeamish that I don't know what I would I honestly I don't know what I would do in that situation. I hope I am never in that situation. But I think practicing these types of drills are really important. And how can companies or schools practice these drills without traumatizing
So
people?
that's, there are two different categories. I have a son still in high school,
Okay.
and he grew up training for active shooters since he was in kindergarten.
Yeah,
Now,
that's so unfortunate.
it is. In the much younger grades, they don't call it active shooter. They don't treat it the way they do once you get into high school. Um, but I will say the US, unfortunately, has more of these than any other country right now,
Mhm.
but we are better prepared. We have
Right.
done training with companies that have clients overseas or buildings overseas. And when we go overseas, I'm gonna have to plug in here. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
And we have when we have those clients overseas, we find that the people who are from the US are like, oh, active shooter drill, you know, let's do the active shooter drill. Some of their
Mhm.
employees are are traumatized.
Mhm.
They've never been involved in an active shooter situation.
Oh, really?
So, or we have corporations that still do not. Um, we have corporations that still don't do active shooter training
Right.
for a whole host of reasons. But many times it's because the employees would be completely upset. Imagine working in the same building for 15, 20, 25 years. It's your routine, it's your safe space. And all of a sudden you're practicing an active shooter situation. It can be very traumatizing. What we
Right.
recommend is you not start off with that full scale active shooter practice drill
Mhm.
where someone, blanks are being fired and there's people running around with guns. We recommend more of a watch a video, right? Department of Homeland
Yeah.
Security has a video, some sort of presentation, and a seminar type discussion, and
Mhm.
make people think first, and then build up to that. And I don't mean the very next time do this. Slowly build up. We have one client who worked with us, and they created a kind of a timeline where we would have a whole year of just discussing active shooter. At some point, we would
Right.
introduce videos,
Mhm.
but videos of actual scenes and sounds, right? What you're gonna hear in the background, kind of create that stressful environment without really being involved in one. And then
Right.
over the next year, we would build towards an active shooter drill. But first, it was having somebody come in with a mock weapon,
Mhm.
a plastic rifle that operates almost like a full gun, right? You can pull the slide back, it's the same size, it's got a magazine. Just start getting your employees um, comfortable with that, and then let them kind of sit, percolate with that for a while rather than scaring the crap out of them. We've heard horror stories. I've read them. I'm sure you have, where
Mhm.
all of a sudden a company wants to do an active shooter training. You're not expecting it. You go into work and there's somebody running around the building, firing blanks. That's never recommended.
Sane.
Yeah,
You gotta give people some warning about
you do.
that.
You do, and you have to build up to it, right?
Mhm.
Um, I don't think doing nothing is a good idea, right?
Right.
You have to do something. Now, back to high school, there's a lot of discussion. How much do we really train these kids on this where it's active shooter? We
Mhm.
should do some training. get them familiar with lockdowns. But we know most schools will not deal with an active shooter.
Right.
And these kids, if you look at surveys, 1964 to 2024, right? You'll see that the safest place people felt was school,
Hmm.
church, and work.
Right.
Now they're like the top three areas people are most afraid to be.
Right.
It's completely changed. It's flipped. We
Hmm.
don't want that. I think there are other measures we can do in schools.
Hmm.
There's been this push in the education world to have this open environment that's supposed to generate creativity.
Right.
Back in the day, when you pulled that door shut in your classroom, it felt like you were trapped.
Hmm.
But that was a safer feeling for the kids.
Right.
So I think there are ways we can rethink the design of schools. I
Hmm.
think we're not giving the smart people of the world credit that they can come up with really safe things. I've
Right.
seen I've seen the whiteboards that you write on in classrooms,
Okay.
they're bullet resistant.
Oh.
I've seen furniture that can be made, the classroom furniture, the desks and the chairs, all bulletproof.
Yeah. Oh, that's just.
So it's part of, I saw this really good, and we don't sell any items. We help clients pick them. So we're not promoting any, speak of no manufacturer, but I saw one where it's like a tent, like a teepee.
Yeah.
And every day, the younger grades, the kids, kindergarten, pre-K, would go in and read.
Hmm.
It's a completely bullet resistant tent or teepee looking thing. So if there was a shooting, you don't even have to tell the kids that you're hiding from a shooter. Teacher goes and locks the door, pulls the shade, and then says, "You know what? We're going to have a special reading session today. Everybody get in the tent."
Right.
So there are things we can do to make our building safer without, and the pushback is, I don't want my kid going to a place that looks like a jail.
Right. My husband is a teacher, and at the school that he used to teach at, they didn't do active shooter drills or lockdowns at all because they were so afraid of traumatizing the students. And like I get it. I am understanding of it. I was a senior, and I'm pretty sure I've told this story before on the podcast, but I was a senior in high school when Sandy Hook happened. And coincidentally, we were supposed to do a lockdown drill that same day. And obviously, the school canceled it, but then they did it the following Monday. And they did it during my art class. And it was so scary to see my art teacher, who was so goofy and silly, take it so seriously and like shoving us, he didn't shove us, but putting us in the closet and telling us to be quiet and that we needed to take it seriously. And it's been like 13 years now, and I can still like clearly, I remember what I was wearing that day. I like so clearly remember it all happening.
Yeah, they can be very scary. And I think the way these active shooter drills and lockdowns occur can be tweaked. Just because we got to this point now doesn't mean they're right. But at the same
Right.
time, not doing lockdown drills is a huge mistake.
Hmm. Because I just think people need to know how to behave
They do.
during them too. It's not even just like the run, hide, fight. It's just don't act a fool in this situation. You gotta take it seriously.
Yes. It's a matter of life or death.
It is.
After
It
these things
is.
are over, many of these facilities can't open again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I
Um,
think they tore down the Sandy
Sandy
Hook
Hook, they did.
school.
They did. They tried to, well, they did reoccupy for a little while, Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. That
Yeah.
didn't last. They're very difficult to do. Even the ones that do stay in place, they change them significantly because the memory of it over and over and over again. So what we
Yeah.
want is kids to be safe.
Hmm.
I think schools, um, more than any other place, need to be safe because when we send our kids to that school, we expect the school to protect them.
You're sending a piece of your heart
Yeah,
to the school. It
yeah,
is that is their like sole. Yes, it is the teacher's job to teach them, but it is your job to protect my baby. That's the
Yes.
number one.
Yes. Yeah. Look, teachers will agree that it's their responsibility to look out for your kids for a whole host of reasons, right? Fire drill, a weather event, power outage. And yet we see some pushback when it comes to, well, I'm not an expert on active shooters, so it's really not my job. I didn't sign on for this. Yeah, you did.
Mhm.
Yeah, you did. Training our kids or teaching them is one aspect of their life. So the
Yeah.
school does take responsibility. They bear a responsibility to keep our children protected. So do employers.
Right.
Employers are bound. We know that by not only by regulation but by case law, right? The It goes back to common law before we were a country. Even innkeepers, right? If you go someplace, there's a certain level of protection that they're saying you have when you come here. So employers have to do that for their employees.
Right. And thank God. Thank God for that. But when you talk to facility managers, what's the biggest misconception you hear about emergency preparedness?
I think there's a lot of right? Like,
Yeah, I see
yeah,
that.
they think about, oh my gosh, I got to write an emergency plan, right? And
Hmm.
and and there's a lot of almost putting it off because it's a big job, and I know I got to do it, but I don't know anything about emergency plans. What I
And
would
it's
tell,
grim. No one wants to think about that type
right,
of stuff.
right, even now, right,
Hmm.
just talking about it can be very emotional, right, moving.
Hmm. Right.
Um, but what I would tell clients is, you ever hear the old expression, how do you eat an elephant?
No, but okay,
One
go
bite
ahead.
at a time,
Yes.
right? If you just look at the size of the elephant and be like, oh my gosh, you think about why you're not going to finish. You just got to eat one bite at a time, right? Same thing with an emergency operation plan. There's a lot of help out there. The Department of Homeland Security through FEMA has sites, websites, and in there they have toolkits. And in those toolkits, they'll have model plans. They literally have little paraphrase, little parentheses, and it'll say company name here. So you just you highlight company name here, you do a find and replace, put your company
Mhm.
name, you now have the outline of an emergency plan. It's
Right.
not going to be correct, it's not going to be perfect, but that's your first step. You can now say, we have an emergency operation plan. What little knowledge or practice you've done, even if it's a fire drill, you just put that into that plan. Now you begin and you build on it. So when you're developing an emergency plan, emergency response plans, don't think about the perfect outcome in the beginning. It's start somewhere and you can always update it and tweak it. So I think that's the biggest part, that hurdle of, oh my gosh, right? Where do I start? Then there's the
Right.
other, this is going to be very expensive. No, what I tell clients is, let's start with what you have first. We
Right.
really don't know what you need until we figure out what you have.
Right.
So those two things, the hurdles, the overwhelming thought of creating plans, and then there's this thought of cost.
Right. So when a facility decides to start doing these type of lockdown drills, where should they begin? What would be the first step, you think?
I would go with another location you're familiar with. Look, if you're in the field, if you're in
Mhm.
if you own a building and you're in a business, somebody else owns a building. If you're in property management and you're a developer, there are developers. Some of them do it really good. Some of them
Mhm.
have really good plans. Um, I know one in New York City. There's a director. They broke off their buildings, commercial, residential.
Mhm.
There's a director of security for the portfolio,
Right.
one for the two sectors, and then each and every building has a director of security.
Mhm.
They have plans, they have security contracts. So that's where I would begin. Go talk to somebody else who does this. If you don't know anybody or don't want to do that, you can always hire a consultant. If you're a smaller company, you can just Google this in websites, right? Go to one of the FEMA sites or Department of Homeland Security and look for how to develop an emergency operation plan, how
Mhm.
to prepare my facility for an active shooter. They have help. not only with model emergency plans, they'll give you, there's videos, there are PowerPoint presentations, there's even these little cards you can print out and give your employees. Posters, they call them, you can post through, depending on what the emergency is you're planning for. Let's say active shooter. It's all there. It's
Mhm.
all provided for you. The other thing I would recommend is we find this small to medium sized companies don't have a security director or security manager.
Okay.
That creates a significant issue that needs to be addressed. And what we find is the guard contract. So if your building has guards at the front, right, or a guarding service, somebody in purchasing might have signed that contract, or
Right.
issued the request for proposal. So purchasing or somebody does that. Now the person that manages it day to day, they don't know what the guards are really supposed to do. What's the responsibility of the guard company? How do we know they're doing their job? And then the technology usually falls to IT, right?
Mhm.
Access control, security cameras, even the emergency alert system, that all goes to IT, which on the back end they're very good at, but they're not emergency minded, right? So
Mhm.
we recommend having somebody identified with that responsibility, hiring a security manager or director, or there are companies that provide fractional services. Have you heard of that term?
No, I have not.
So companies that are growing need a CFO, all right,
Right.
certified financial officer. They can't afford somebody at the industry rate, so they'll hire a company and provide somebody for them by contract, and only provides the services they need now. So
Right.
they're not paying for benefits and stuff like that. And as the company grows, they can either add more hours or then hire somebody full time.
Right.
You can do that with a security manager. You can hire
Mhm.
somebody to just manage your locks and keys, your access control, your security cameras, your guard contracts. Um, we found a client that had access control, right? Key
Right.
card, swipe cards. And because nobody in the company really knew much about this, they got the highest level of um, maintenance contract, $36,000 a year.
Mhm.
In 3 years, they never called anybody for service.
Oh.
And they had several key cards, swipe card readers that
Right.
weren't working, so they kept the doors unlocked.
Oh no. Kind of sounds like a waste of money at that point.
Yeah, it is. So somebody needs to be responsible for that kind of stuff. Emergency plans. I've seen places from retail locations to theaters in Manhattan where the theater manager is responsible for writing your emergency plan, right? So I would say reach out for somebody who's
Yeah.
in that
Who
field.
knows that
Yeah.
this is an audio medium. Listeners, I shook my head when he said theater managers being in charge of writing the emergency plans because that's not in their job descriptions.
It's not fair that the theater manager's job is to get butts in the seats, right?
Right.
Right? Make the theater a place where production companies want to come, place to be enjoyable, comfortable. I think throwing that element on is a little too much to ask sometimes.
Right. So when facility managers start putting on these types of drills, what type of data should they be looking for? Or like data feedback, what should they look at afterwards?
So key is, did your employees know what to do, right?
Hmm.
And what you ask your employees to do, did it work right, or did they even know how to do it, right?
Right.
All right, everybody, if the alarm goes off or the PA says we have a shooter in the building, locked down, go to your office and lock down. Do you know how your locks work?
Right.
Does your door actually lock? Or
Mhm.
is your office a big panel of glass and your door glass door? Um,
Yeah.
Quite often we see glass doors, if they have any lock at them on them, it's a magnet lock, right? On the top.
Right.
Because hardware makes the glass not look as nice, right? So they have very minimal hardware. So if somebody doesn't have the ability to control that lock electronically,
Mhm.
many occupants in offices don't have the ability to lock their doors,
Oh my God.
right? So that's what the training could be. It doesn't have to be scary. Hey
Yeah.
guys, I can poke my head in and say, hey, McKenna, if I were to ask you to do it, how would you lock your office down?
I right here. I would just have to barricade with the table. I couldn't,
Okay.
there's no lock on the door, there's no shade on the window. I'm telling you, I would be screwed in this type of situation.
So I will tell you one thing you could do. Do you know if those bookshelves are attached to the wall? Because if they're
They're
not,
not.
okay, so that
No.
one right behind you you could push it to the point where that person can't get in the door, right?
Right.
Then what you want to do is think about a bullet is like a little mini torpedo, right? It's got a
Mhm.
point on the end and it spins, right? That's what keeps its trajectory and keeps it straight. As it spins, it could go through things. It'll go through the glass, it may go through the door, could even go through that bookshelf. But every time you put another item between you and the bullet, as it's spinning through, something may happen to that bullet. Eventually,
Right.
the spinning will stop or slow down. The
Mhm.
bullet could wobble now or even become deformed. So it goes to two or three pieces of wood. It could now become flatter. The damage would not be as serious. So we
Right.
want that. Now the books, I don't know if you've ever seen. They do it in gel now and water, but for years, that's how we tested firearms. We
Oh.
put books and pages and see how far the bullet went through.
Oh, wow.
So bullets provide a very good protection.
Mhm.
I have a kid in high
That's
school. I have a very, it's thin, right? It's this thin. You can't even tell it. I have a bulletproof panel I put in my son's book bag.
okay.
It's only good for handguns, but if it
It's something.
if it's now that panel and then a book or two and some other stuff, his iPad or something,
Yeah.
it may protect him, if not cause much less damage. So I want you to
Right.
think about objects in the room between putting them between you and the bullet, even
Mhm.
if it's going to go through some. By the time there are videos of bullets going through pieces of wood, and eventually at
Mhm.
some point just dropping because the
Right.
spinning stuff. So that's what you
Mhm.
want to do. You want to put as many things between you and the shooter. The many walls are not bullet resistant, right? If they're poured concrete or cinder block, you have some pretty good protection.
Mhm.
Probably sheetrock, right? Maybe not
Right.
even insulation. Bullet may go through that. So you want to put as many items between you and the shooter as possible.
Right. Ever since I started covering facilities management, I have never cared about my safety more. And this interview has really has really proven that too. But I know that we're running out of time, Brian. So I just have one last question for you. And if you could leave facility managers with one message about lockdown readiness, what would it be?
I would say you start with a good assessment. Check all your
Yeah.
equipment because even companies that have really good equipment, it should be layered. When we do
Right.
reviews of places that have active shooter situations, like Uvalde,
Hmm.
every door had a lock on it.
Right.
The
Except for
locks
the one that
didn't.
was propped.
It turns out it wasn't propped. The
That's what I
teacher,
thought.
right? So there was a study done, one by the Department of Justice. There was also another study done by the House of Representatives in Texas, and they revealed that the locks just didn't catch that day. So a teacher did
Horrible.
prop a door open initially, went out, used their phone because the cell service wasn't good, came
Mhm.
back in and closed the door, but it didn't catch.
Yeah.
They had an emergency messaging program to put out to everybody through their phones and stuff. PA, there's a lockdown. They couldn't connect because the Wi-Fi was a problem.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was a series of things. They spent 40 plus minutes trying to get the keys to the door where the shooter was.
Hmm.
The door was unlocked the whole time. So
This is,
assume, Murphy's Law, right?
yeah, right.
That's what, assume that those products will not work perfectly. You also have to maintain them, right?
Mhm.
Your locks, your keys, your doors. So do a good assessment regularly. Make sure that you have the right equipment, like locking down. I think the big ones are being able to lock down, good evacuation, and good messaging. How do people know
Mhm.
there's a shooter in your building?
Right. Communication has to be essential.
It's
Do you
key.
think that's something that people need to practice, especially in these types of drills?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
How does the program work? You think about the last time you did something that you haven't tried in a while, right? Like I turned my computer on. I was away for a week, and somebody said, "Run to your computer real quick." And all of a sudden, I'm updating and I'm
Of
downloading, and right.
course.
Same thing with
Mhm.
technology. So you have to maintain this regularly. Um, Doors and locks have to be maintained on a regular basis, and you have to have a program to have them repaired as quickly as possible.
Right. Our friend of the pod, Alicia Jolivet, she told us in our previous season that she's an education facility manager and she does a door check every week at her throughout her district just to make sure everything is working properly. Every
Yep.
week. She's a like chief facility manager. I don't know. I can't remember her official title, but for Houston. And every week she checks
It's
every
huge.
door in the
You know,
district.
the discussion we had about how I see that there's no security managers or directors, right? So
Mhm.
somebody has a contract with a guard company. I would recommend in the responsibilities of the officers in your building is they have to check and report non-functioning doors,
Right.
right? So if they're making rounds anyway, don't you want them to check every door, pull them, make sure they're working?
Mhm.
I would put that in the contract.
Right.
Right then and there, every time an officer does a patrol or walks around, they're also checking your emergency equipment.
Right. Just make it a part of your rounds.
Make it part of your rounds.
Make it routine because then once or if, not once, if an event happens, you know what to do. It'll be a muscle memory at that point.
Exactly. Exactly. So you can respond because that's what happens in that scary moment of running. You know,
Mhm.
um, you're going to go for what my wife's a flight attendant.
Okay.
She gets certified, if you will, on each aircraft every year because you need to know where that stuff is on every plane, and every plane puts it in the same or that type of plane puts that equipment in the same spot every plane, so that
Mhm.
when the cabin fills with smoke or there's an emergency, you don't have to think about where this is. It becomes muscle
Right.
memory.
But that is all that I have for you today, Brian. Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, McKenna, thanks for having me on. I hope this in some way helps people. I don't want to stress them out or make them afraid or emotional. I want them to think, hey, we should do something.
Yeah. And I think it will. But where can the people find you?
Well, our company is www.group77.com, and our office number is 201-825-2000.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Facilities in Focus podcast. Facilities in Focus is a product of the facility market, which houses FacilitiesNet, building operating management, facilities maintenance decisions, and healthcare facilities today. Thank you to our sound and video editor, Paul Ellertson. Thank you to Morgan Johnson for designing our logo. Thank you to Dan Welton, Dave Lubach, Dan Hounsell, Jeff Warden, Jill McDermott, and everyone else at Trade Press Media Group. For comments, or if you are interested in being a guest on Facilities in Focus, please email us at fnpodcast@tradepress.com.